guys, let's talk about troublesome Japanese students. So at my school, I teach anywhere between 6th graders, or yes, 6-year-olds, up to about 11 or 12 years old. And I think anywhere you go in the world, little kids are going to be troublesome sometimes, right? They're still learning like social manners, they're learning like etiquette in the classroom, they're learning how to interact with each other and adults. And so in some cases it can get pretty wild and pretty rambunctious, and other times it can be like really mellow and really cool. And most of the time, I'd say 95% of the time, my classes are totally awesome. They're super cool. I love teaching my kids, especially when they're really involved, right? Especially when I'm teaching them something cool, like, you know, some kind of like animal name, and they're like throwing other names at me and I know what they're saying, so I tell them that means velociraptor, that means, you know, jaguar, that means all these other things. And we kind of have this dialogue going on. They're super engaged, they're talking to me, and I'm talking back, and we're learning other things outside of the curriculum. That's the best kind of class. When the kids are throwing their hands up in the air and they're excited, and they're like, they cannot wait to interact and use English and do this sort of thing. But every once in a while, I have a classroom that's not particularly good, or a couple troublesome kids. And I'd say most of the time, troublesome at my Japanese school means that they are either too outspoken, so they're screaming, they're yelling, they're too involved, their attention's kind of elsewhere, they're getting distracted and they're distracting other kids. So for example, in particular, there's a student last semester in my 2nd grade class who everyone else in this class was pretty engaged, right? They all engaged with me, they all did exactly what I was asking them to do and what their teacher was asking them to do. But this one kid would always try to get my attention specifically. So I would, you know, ask the class a question, you know, what color is this? What animal is this? What number is this? How many apples is this? And this kid would always, instead of answering the question, go, Ben Sensei, Ben Sensei, Ben Sensei, and he'd yell my name over and over and over again. The other kids are trying to, you know, answer my question, they're trying to hear me, they're struggling through English, and this kid's yelling over all of them, right? He's distracting them, and they're turning around, they're saying, you're being annoying, be quiet, what are you doing? And this kid just wants to ask me how tall I am. He wants to ask me why my hair's like curly, he wants to know why I have a beard, he wants to know all these things, and he's just way too energized, he's way too focused, or way too like unfocused on English, and way too focused on me, the teacher. And that, I encourage that outside of the classroom. I love when the kids talk to me, especially at lunchtime. At one of my other schools, I eat lunch with the students, and they come up to me and they ask me all kinds of ridiculous stuff, and some of it I can't understand whatsoever, because they're talking about like anime or toys or video games I don't play, and this sort of thing, and it just goes completely over my head. But in the classroom it can be a little bit troublesome, and this isn't something that's unique to Japanese students. I'm sure this happens all over the world. But when you think about Japan, and you think about students in general, I think the image is of the quiet, collected, you know, very, you know, studious Japanese student in their uniform, you know, taking notes, doing this sort of thing, and not really talking out. But at elementary school, it's completely different. That might be the high school, middle school image, but at elementary school, it can go berserk. And so in this one class, it's this one kid. But last semester in particular, there was a 4th grade class that I loved some of the kids in them. There's a couple kids who were really, really good, and I wish they'd been in another class so they could have been more engaged in English. But this class had all of the bad kids in the 4th grade. There were probably about 8 kids who really stood out as being kind of like out of control. And when I say out of control, they did things like, there were a couple kids, right? I would be teaching and I team teach. So I have my other teacher, my Japanese teacher here, who can back me up, and when I'm explaining English to the kids that understand, the teacher can step in and explain to them in Japanese what's going on, and can also be like the buffer. If I don't understand a question the kid's asking, she can tell me, and this sort of thing. We work with each other. But the class did not respect her at all, and then by virtue of that, not respect me either. And so there'd be kids in this class who would come up behind her when she's not looking, she's drawing on the board, or she's, you know, most of the time it'd be she's walking around checking them, helping them out, and then she'd walk by a kid and they'd get up and they'd pantomime punching her or kicking her, or like doing like, you know, there's a Japanese kansha where like they little kids will like try to poke their fingers up each other's butts. It's really weird. But try to, you know, they don't do it to the teacher, but they're acting it out and they're laughing, and you know, everyone in the class is watching it and they're doing it. I know the teacher knows it's happening. I know she knows it's happening. I know when the kids are messing around behind my back, and she's just at this point where it's too much for her, and she knows she can't stop it. And at this point in the semester, she's just kind of given up on it. So she gets their attention, she tries to get it going, but these kids go berserk. In the middle of a lesson, for example, we're doing a game where we have an eraser between 2 students. There are 2 students sitting at a desk, and we're playing a game where when I pick a keyword like apple out of a selection of words, the kids, when they hear apple, touch the eraser, and the one who touches it first wins. And we're playing this game, and a couple of the kids get up and start practicing like baseball pitching with the erasers in the back of the classroom. They wind up, they throw it, and they're just slamming their erasers against the door, slamming their erasers against the window, and it's making all this noise, and the other kids start to hear it, and it just goes completely out of control. A couple of kids will stand up on their desks and like scream and yell at the top of their lungs, trying to like get their friends' attention. I have a couple kids who were in that class who would just take their shirts off. A couple of the guys in the class would just remove their clothes and just sit there wearing just their pants. And it was just weird. It got really bizarre. And this one teacher, either because she just gave up or she didn't know what to do or just got too used to it, would let it happen. And I, being not a particularly good speaker of Japanese and also not knowing how the dynamic in Japanese classrooms work, wouldn't be able to do anything about it. I'd do what I do in other classes. I'd say, shh, let's be quiet, sit down. And I do this kind of thing, which works for other classes when they're paying attention, when they have respect for the teachers. But in this one particular class, nothing worked. Nothing worked. And what ended up happening the most was this teacher would give up and she'd go get another teacher, and that teacher would come in and she'd yell and yell at the kids, like saying, who's doing this and who's doing that? And everyone apologize, everyone, you're completely out of control, you're making their teacher upset, Ben can't teach his lesson, what are you guys thinking? And they'd all be quiet and they'd all deal with it. And then she'd leave, and as soon as she left, they'd freak out again. These kids would run out of the classroom, run up and down the hallways, come back in, they'd go outside onto the balcony, they'd throw like their pencils and stuff down in the courtyard. It went crazy. But what's interesting is that I know that if this was happening at my school, my elementary school back in America, these kids would be out of the classroom so fast. They'd be out of the classroom. Like, they'd be at the principal's office, they'd be having their parents talk to, it'd be like this huge thing. The kids are out of control, right? There'd be some sort of discussion, what are you going to do with these kids? And in this school, nothing like that happened. I didn't see a principal come in one time. I didn't see the vice principal come in one time. I never saw a kid sent out of the classroom. The most I ever saw was a kid who's going completely crazy, because there were a couple kids who would actually like hit each other in class and hurt each other. And when that would happen, the teacher would grab them and pull them out of the classroom, kicking and screaming into the hallway and reprimand them. And then I'm left alone with all these kids, and they don't want to listen to me. It was by far the craziest class of all time. But that being said, once they graduated, when the new semester started, and they went from being 4th graders to 5th graders, and the class split up and they had new teachers, these kids are some of the best kids that I have. It's completely bizarre. Some of the kids who would never answer my questions, who would never look at me, who would never ever ever participate in class, they just freak out the whole time, are now some of my best students in 5th grade. I'll ask them a question, they want to answer. They're nice and quiet. I don't know what the deal is, whether or not the kid, they just got broken up and they don't have the same like power relationships they have anymore in class, and that's why it's different, or these new teachers somehow got to them, but it's completely different now. And when these sort of things happen in school, it makes me wonder, like, how do these things get so crazy? How do these situations get so bizarre and then normalize so quickly? And there's a lot of in between that. Kids who are incredibly hyperactive, kids who, they just can't. They're just sleeping on their desk. The teachers come over, shake them and wake them up, and they're like, oh, okay, and they go back to sleep. And, I'm sure it's like that everywhere in the world. Everywhere where there's little kids, these sort of things happen, right? This is not unique to Japan in any way, I don't think. But just as a foreigner coming in, right, in particular as a foreigner coming in, and knowing when you were here on the JET program, they said, like, if you see something happening, you should let the other teachers deal with it. You don't want to step in and cause a scene because you don't know how the school dynamic is or the culture works here. And just seeing it get out of control and you thinking what you would do, but knowing that you need to let the other teachers handle it, it puts you in this weird position, this weird mindset where you feel a little bit helpless, but at the same time, you feel a little bit helpless because you can't help your teachers out, you can only do so much. But at the same time, you're trying to understand it from a cultural perspective and not meddle, and it's just a weird position to be in. So I don't like being in that position, but it's something that can happen. So anyway, guys, another rambly kind of vlog. I hope you guys really liked it. If you have any questions or concerns, or you're applying for the JET program and you're like, there's going to be crazy kids like this, what do I do? Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Guys, subscribe if you liked the video. Hit the like button, do all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.